No, Tucker is not dead. I know everybody is kind of mourning him, but he is alive and well. I've got proof. Tucker's going to be fine. Not so sure about Fox News. We're going to talk about who might be Tucker's replacement. We got a very short list here. Did you know that apparently wanting to be thin is now a new kind of white supremacy?
Every time.
Just when you think you've heard it all or seen it all, you see this. If you're watching on YouTube, this is a picture of a very hairy man dressed in an Indian bridal costume for Brides Today magazine. It's something to see, believe me. And Leah Thomas, the transgender swimmer, says feminism really is now just a form of transphobia. My gosh, the world's going crazy. And it's getting socialist in the process because there's a new policy debuting May 1st that Republicans are trying to fight that would actually cause you as a homeowner, if you happen to have good credit, it would cause you to have to pay more than those who have bad credit. How does that make any sense? We are joined today by the guy who may have gotten Don Lemon fired. Can we get a round of applause? Vivek Ramaswamy. He is running for president. He's running for the Republican nomination. And he might actually be on that list of Tucker replacements if for some reason the whole presidential thing doesn't work out. Anyway, he's going to be joining us with his reaction to what went down at CNN. Welcome to the program, everyone. I am Trish Regan. We are sponsored in part, as always, by Legacy Precious Metals, legacypminvestments.com. That's the website you need to go to if you want to buy or sell gold or silver. They can do it all right there for you online, or you can give them a ring, 1-866-589-0560. They offer things like a gold-backed IRA, legacypminvestments.com. Okay, all right. So Tucker, listen, guys, I know everybody's upset. I got messages from so many people. One friend told me he was tuning in to watch Hannity last night just to feel a little closer to Tucker.
It's not the same.
Viewers are upset. I get it. I mean, it's understandable. I think in some ways, these TV personalities come into your home every night and you feel this connection. I know that when I left Fox in kind of an unceremonious way myself, everybody reached out, and you still do to this day, saying, oh, I'm so glad I found you here on YouTube. I'm glad I found the podcast, because we had kind of a relationship, right? We had something going on. I mean, now it's even better because now we can actually talk more directly to each other. This is so romantic. But it's a kind of an adjustment process. And so people are mourning this. I'm seeing all these pictures of Tucker on Instagram. Everybody's posting their favorite shots. They're upset. And so, as I've said, Fox News is going to have a little bit of a problem here because they've got to kind of make sure that the viewers don't totally desert them. I mean, you look at the ratings from the other night, and MSNBC is doing pretty well. Newsmax is doing pretty well. There's a lot of places to go, as we know, in the splintered media environment where you can come directly to a personality, straight to a personality, straight here to Trish Regan, for example. Or should Tucker decide to do his own thing, and I think he'd be smart to do so, you'll be able to go directly to him. So there's a whole new opportunity for you as a consumer. And I think younger people certainly get this, and older people are starting to get it as well. But let's just say I were running things at Fox News right now. First of all, it never would have gotten to this, but if I were suddenly in charge, who would I put in? Who would you put in, for that matter? Send us a comment. Let us know who your first choice would be as a host for the show. We've been assembling names because, by the way, some of you have already been saying this. Brian Kilmeade, of course, stepped in for Tucker. Tough spot to be in, I think, for him, you know, the first night and everything. But he's well regarded at the network. So Brian Kilmeade, he's on the list. Jesse Waters. Jesse Waters came up as a producer under Bill O'Reilly. He used to do Waters World, where he'd go out and ask these crazy questions and kind of basic stuff, actually, like basic civics.
Who did America fight in the Revolutionary War?
The French?
He's very much a conservative, and so he's somebody who could step into the slot. Piers Morgan is over there. He's part of the whole Fox system right now. He's very, very liked by the Murdoch family, certainly by Rupert Murdoch. Could Piers do it? He's got a British accent, so I don't know how that goes down.
You're being ageist.
Can I say that?
You're being ageist.
No, I'm just saying.
Wow.
If that's a fact.
I'm
it was a long time ago.
Triggered.
But hey, you know what? Steve Hilton, he's on The Weekend. He's got a British accent. Maybe it works. Mark Stein, He's got an accent, I think, like some kind of Canadian accent, but he used to fill in a lot for Tucker, and he's kind of eccentric and he's got neat ideas. So he's another possible contender. I'm going to throw Candace Owens in there because we don't have a woman. Nobody's mentioned a woman, and I don't know how deep the bench really is for conservative women over there. They've got Laura Ingraham, who does a great job, and then you got I'm just going to put his name in the ring because he is a guest on the show today. You got a guy named Vivek Ramaswamy who's running for president. I want to put that in there because I want to get his reaction coming up. He's going to be joining us in just a couple of minutes. His reaction to the Tucker situation and whether or not he might ever consider a job like that. Other news of the day. I mean, it's a crazy world when everything gets so convoluted to the point where wanting to be thin is now being seen as a form of racism. So there's a new book making the rounds, and it's making some people a little bit upset, understandably. It's called Fat Talk. It's by an author named Virginia Soul Smith. And her point here is that the weight stigma has to do with people not wanting to be fat because that's somehow associated with the African American culture, and therefore not wanting to be fat is a form of racism. And so we should celebrate fatness because we want to celebrate everyone. So whoa, back up, right? Back up. Like this doesn't even make any sense, but nothing makes any sense these days. I mean, hey, whatever happened to, I want to be healthy? Like we don't want to encourage crazy skinniness or crazy fatness, or we just want to encourage people to be healthy. Like, isn't that normal? According to the author, and I quote, "The chronic experience of weight stigma is similar to the research we see on chronic experiences of racism or other forms of bias."
That makes no sense.
Whoa. So let me just stop her there because obviously I'm not Black, but if I were, I might be a little offended by that because, hey, like your weight, you can kind of have some control over. Whereas the color of your skin is the color of your skin, right? Like you're born with that. So to actually equate it and put it on the same level, sort of intellectually and emotionally, like kind of feels wrong. And for the people that you're talking about it, it's kind of like a slap in the face to them. But no, because again, in this upside down world, the woke community is embracing this theory. There's a woman named Sabrina Strings, and she's got a book called Fearing the Black Body. And she wholeheartedly backs this. She said, yeah, this is true. Like people are just afraid of a Black body, and it is a kind of racism. I mean, the logic here is kind of beyond anyone's real comprehension. But Sabrina Strings says that basically everybody wants to be thin because they equate a heavier body with sort of the post-slavery era in American history. And as such, want to have a different, I mean, I don't even like saying this. It's so absolutely bizarre. Look, here's the deal. As a society, yes, we need to do a better job at communicating, especially with young women, what it means to be healthy. We don't want anybody too skinny. We don't want anybody too fat. You need to eat in a healthy way. And when yet you put labels on this in such bizarre ways, it actually encourages kind of a law of unintended consequences where people are thinking about this very differently. For example, why are we celebrating fatness now? That's the idea, right? You have to celebrate it because otherwise it's discriminatory. Instead of just saying, wait a second, maybe we want you to be healthier. Maybe we want you to eat a little bit better. Maybe you need to take some individual responsibility. Look at the diabetes rates in America today. 1 in 10 Americans are now suffering from type 2 diabetes. This is way up from years before. What has happened? Food has become more plentiful. There's tons of chemicals in food. All the stuff, the cheap food, the junk food that people are consuming is making them fatter. This has nothing to do with race. There may be a socioeconomic component, or perhaps people are not getting the right sort of guidance in terms of what they should eat. Go for the lentils if you're at Walmart as opposed to the potato chips. But to actually say that we need to be careful about this because it's somehow racist to say somebody is overweight, that's taken it to just a bizarre level that I'm having trouble following the logic, as I imagine you are too. So again, Sabrina Strings, her book, which kind of echoes what this woman, Virginia Soul Smith, is talking about, her book, Fearing the Black Body, it doesn't gel. Like, listen, when you think of some of the most beautiful Black women in the world right now, you think of people like Rihanna, you think about Alicia Keys, Beyonce, gorgeous women. in good physical form. What she's going down is a path to, I guess, make more excuses and become the victim and all this nonsense in a way that is having a detrimental effect on society. Just look at the catalogs you get in the mail. I got one from Victoria's Secret the other day. I'm like, sorry. I'm just going to throw this out. But before I threw it out, I got really angry at it. Because I'm like, really, guys, you want to sell me this stuff? I mean, can we not have a little bit of aspiration? Like keep the imagination going a little bit? It's like they're trying to celebrate a lack of health. We should be celebrating good health. I'm not saying everybody has to be skinny mini, but you need to celebrate what's healthy. And there should be kind of an ideal to strive for, because you know what? That's in the best interest of you as a human being to take care of yourself. It's in the best interest of our society to take care of ourselves. And we shouldn't be giving any kind of excuses for any of it. Listen, it comes down to all of us having some self-control. And again, you don't need to be skinny, but you also shouldn't be celebrating the whole being extremely large, right? Like, because it's just unhealthy. But, look, if you're appalled by some of these Victoria's Secrets images, you ain't seen nothing yet. Take a peek at this. Okay, so this is Brides Today magazine in India. This is their Instagram account, and apparently this is their new digital cover, and they're celebrating transgenderism. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, I'm just going to describe it. It is a very, very hairy man, like lots of arm hair, lots of probably back hair, lots of hair, just everywhere. Lots of hair, facial hair, the whole bit. And he's wearing lots of jewelry as well, and a fancy sari and a lot of makeup. And this is how they're celebrating transgenderism. So once again, putting people on a pedestal. Now, I got nothing against, you do you, and I'll do me. Okay. You want to do that, fine. But when you start shoving it down people's throat over and over and over again in society and celebrating it in a way that I think leaves a lot of young kids really confused, then we're talking about a whole different thing. You heard my interview the other day with Chloe Cole, the young girl who at 12 years old was like, I don't really like this whole girl thing, because she's going through all the things that girls go through at 12, 13, 14, 15. By 15, they had operated on her and done a double mastectomy. And she realized, that wasn't going to solve any of her problems, that she actually did want to be a woman. And now she can't even get them to pay for reconstructive surgery. They're of no help. She wants to transition, fine, but can the medical community do anything to help her detransition? Whole other story. So I think that this sort of push, which is designed to make us all more accepting, it may come from some good intentions somewhere. I actually don't think it does. I think it's extremely political, but let's just assume that they're trying to do this so that we're all a little bit more open-minded. Okay, fine. But you're taking it to a whole other level. Listen, it's pretty basic. We need to be good people. That's where sort of just being a good person, valuing others, having a relationship with God. I mean, these are things that I think help mold you into a better and more tolerant individual. Not celebrating nonsense and sort of, worshiping it, because that's what this has become. Like, everybody has to worship these people, and that's a whole different thing entirely. So they're force feeding us. This is exactly what they did over at Bud Light. They literally wanted us drinking their beverage. And what did we see happen? Everybody fought back, and they're continuing to fight back. Massive decline in sales numbers, down 17% for some of the numbers ending the 15th of April. And then we've seen additional numbers coming in suggesting beer sales for Bud Light are down as much as 30%. So the company is just in a state of chaos. They've already fired. I shouldn't say fired. Forgive me. Nobody got fired. They just got put on a leave of absence. 2 executives there are being put on a leave of absence because clearly they don't understand their customer. And these woke ideas are taking over in a way that is really, I would still argue, kind of detrimental to society. Speaking of which, some of these woke ideas are very detrimental to women. And I consider myself a feminist. And I say that in the most positive, original form of the word, in that I believe in the equality of men and women. Doesn't mean that women are going to do the exact same things or look the exact same way. It doesn't mean that women should be competing with men in athletics because there's a whole different physical thing going on, but it means that we should have equal access to opportunity and women should be able to do whatever it is that they want to do. You want to stay home with your children. You want to run a business. You want to be the president of the United States. You want to be an Olympic athlete. Go for it. You need to have equal opportunity to men. And what we've now seen as a result of this whole transgender athlete thing is that women don't have the same opportunity anymore. And it's getting twisted on its head with Leah Thomas now on a podcast coming out and saying that they are using feminism to push transphobic beliefs. She thinks feminism is discriminating against her rather than coming to the realization that, look, if you're born with male hormones and you're growing as an individual for many, many years, you're building muscle in a different way than a woman could actually do. I mean, this is kind of just basic science, right?
They're like, oh, we respect Leah as a woman, as a trans woman, whatever. We respect her identity. We just don't think it's fair. You can't really have that sort of half support where you're like, oh, I respect you as a woman here, but not here.
I can respect you as a person. You know what? We are all God's creation. Every individual has value. I can respect you while I still disagree with you. That's one thing conservatives actually do really well. The left, however, does not. The left wants it the whole way, right? It's my way or the highway. Either you accept all of me and accept that I can win all the medals because I grew up in a male body and have certain advantages because of it, or you're somehow transphobic. That's the nuttiest thing I have ever heard. And by the way, look, I worked many years in TV. I have a background in music. I've known a very diverse group of people and had a very diverse group of friends. There is nothing transphobic about what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that I care about women and I care about girls. And I want to make sure that every girl has an equal opportunity to get a scholarship to college because she's been working her whole life to try and get it. And I don't want somebody who was raised as a boy coming along and taking it away out from under. I mean, she's shattering records by a full, 1.75 seconds. That's a big, big deal. So now women have to reach that goal. How is that fair? It's not. And we as women, we need to speak up because we're pretty tolerant, but there's a kind of misogyny going on here. Really and truly. These are men making all these decisions. The man, Anheuser-Busch, the CEO of the company, there's another male executive at marketing. And yes, Alyssa Heinerstein, I can never say her name right, so I'm not going to try. But the other woman that got put on leave, women are going along with it all. I mean, think about the guys over at Nike that thought it was brilliant to hire Dylan Mulvaney to advertise the sports bra for parts of his body he doesn't even have. Do you think that they would actually hire a woman who thought she was a man to advertise a jockstrap? I mean, I don't see that happening. So this is all about, if you really think about it, men imposing a lot of their views and women are like nowhere to be found. We need to stand up for ourselves and for each other and for our girls. That's just reality. And there's nothing transphobic. There's nothing racist. That's not what's at stake here. We just need to celebrate and honor women for being women. So you got to ask, why are they doing this? I do believe that there is a political motive behind all of it. It's all about divide, and conquer. They want to divide the nuclear family. It's actually part of the whole manifesto. Go to the Black Lives Matter movement. That's exactly what you'll see. So in sort of this communist liberal ideal, you need to break away the kids from the family, from the parents. You need to break away the kids from the church. You want to basically make sure that nobody has any influence except for you. And what we're seeing is this is exactly what is happening. So we're creeping closer and closer to a state-run environment where the state has all the say from a sort of societal standpoint and also from a monetary standpoint, from an economic standpoint. And trust me, this is not going to be good for anyone. I mean, I've seen Venezuela. I've lived Venezuela. I was trading Venezuelan sovereign debt back when Hugo Chavez came to power 20 some odd years ago. I have seen it in real time. That economy was destroyed. And we are on that path. We are on that path right now. The Biden administration is putting forward new rules and regulations surrounding mortgages. These are set to take effect on May 1st. They want to make sure that if you have a higher credit score, or if you happen to have been fortunate enough to have scrimped and saved and gotten together 15% or even 20% of a down payment on a mortgage, guess what? You're going to pay higher fees. Like, that makes sense. If you have a credit score of 640 or above, the experts say, well, you're going to have to pay another $40 a month for your mortgage. Why are we doing that? Oh, it's because we need to pay for the people that do not have good credit scores. We have to pay for the people that can't save all that money for a down payment. I mean, this is like the college loan thing all over again, right? Somehow the hardworking Jack and Jill out there in Main Street America that's going to work every day and trying to scrimp and save for their kids' education and for their own retirement someday. Now they're responsible for all those kids that got Pell Grants and took out loans to go to school. Somehow that's their responsibility now. It's your responsibility if you worked hard and you saved your money for your down payment. If you've actually tried to pay your bills on time and you get a good credit score, you have to pay for everybody else who doesn't have that. What kind of messed up world is that? I'll tell you what it is. It's a socialist world. That's what it is. And that is what this administration is trying to increasingly put into place. And this is what we have to, as individuals, fight back against. It matters. Our economy matters. Our social fabric matters. Family matters. Parents matter. You know, you look at any study and what you see over and over again is that one of the best keys to success for any American, it's not necessarily were you born in this kind of wealth environment. It's were you born in a two-parent household? And did you grow up in a two-parent household? That is the biggest indicator of economic success for children. So it's hard to raise kids. We need two family members. We need a man and a woman. And yes, you do still need a woman and a uterus, to have a baby. It's just the way it is. That is science. All right, we got a lot to get into today with Vivek Ramaswamy. This is the guy running for president, by the way, on the Republican side, who got Don Lemon fired. By the way, Don Lemon getting fired this week, and he's got to be mad because Tucker took all the air, like sucked all the oxygen out of the media. Nobody really cares about Don Lemon. They're just sort of happy he's gone. What took so long? Anyway, I want you to see this clip.
By failing to recognize the fact that we have equality before the law.
And you live in this country, then you can disagree with me, but we're not. You mentioned in here that we have three different shades
Don, I think we have to be able to talk about these issues in the open, regardless of the color of our skin. Black Americans today, to say that, compare that to 1865 and 1964,
I think for you to compare it to 1865 and 1964 is actually, I think it's insulting to black people. It's insulting to me as an African American. I don't want to sit here and argue with you because it's infuriating for you to put those things together. It's not right. Your telling of history is wrong. What
part of the history was wrong?
What part of the history was wrong? That the Civil War was fought. You're making people think that the Civil War was fought for black people, only for black people to get guns and for black people to have.
The Civil War was fought for black people in this country to get freedoms, a noble mission. And I think that even after we succeeded, we had to actually secure those freedoms.
Tailspin. So I think what happened was it's an example of when the left's own suppositions get into conflict with one another. They don't know how to deal with it. And then he started to tell me that I couldn't speak and engage in that debate because I wasn't a black American. I'll applaud CNN, though. I think that they're saying that they want to be a platform where multiple different viewpoints are respected. Don Lemon wouldn't be a very good TV host to have on your network if that were the case.
Yeah, I'm shocked that he lasted as long as he did. But, at least finally something kind of brought it to a head, which happened to, it seems to be you. Do you think you're the reason he got fired?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear. That was the final straw. New York Times reported it based on conversations there and based on what we've heard. It looks like that, too. But you know what? Mm-hmm. People don't do well on the debate stage of any kind with me. And so we're not going to play with kid gloves. And that's why we take the left on their own turf and like to win.
Did Chris Licht call you at all? I mean, Chris Licht is in charge of sort of remaking the network. He is a pretty sensible guy, comes from a straight news background. He's trying to play things more down the middle. Easier said than done, I think, at a network like that. Did he call you? Did he apologize? Did anybody apologize?
Yeah, so I had actually met with Chris a little bit ago, not that long ago, maybe a number of weeks, but before that exchange, I would say someone from the network did reach out to someone on my team to apologize. But what I said is I don't need any apologies, right? We don't need apologies. We got to have thick skin. If you're in my seat, you better have a thick skin. But I think it's really good for us to surface these debates where, forget Don Lemon, even Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley of the Squad, she'll say that we don't want any more black faces that don't want to be a black voice or brown faces that don't want to be a brown voice. That's a toxic worldview. But if that's really what people are going to think beneath the surface, let's bubble that to the surface and talk about it in the open. And that's why I thought it was such a productive exchange, actually, is it was uncomfortable. It was very awkward, no doubt. But I'm happy to bear that cross. And this is part of why I think we in our movement need to go to the other side's turf more often, because I think we have the winning arguments. And that's what I've been doing from college campuses to left-wing media. I think it's actually useful.
Listen, I love what you're doing. I loved your book, Woke Inc. And I spoke to you some time ago when the book first came out. I told the viewers, I was like blown away by this guy. I was excited you were coming on today because I said, he is so impressive. Everything he said, I was just sort of like, it's very rare that this happens. I was sort of just like, wow, just trying to take it all in, digest what you said. It was really, really important stuff. You are 34? Did I get that right?
I'm 37 now. You know,
oh, okay.
34 when I wrote Woke
So
Inc,
you're 37 years old. You'd be the youngest president ever. I've also been making the case we need some new blood. We need youthful people. We need people with new ideas. What's it like as a 37-year-old with no political experience? By the way, I should tell the viewer, tremendous business experience, entrepreneur. You started a couple of companies, sold them for a heck of a lot of money. So self-made guy. What's it like now going into the political arena?
So look, I've built my entire career taking on bureaucracies in big pharma. I took on the woke industrial complex, both with Woke Inc. and another business that I started called Strive, that competes directly with these ESG promoting asset managers like BlackRock. I know what bureaucracy looks like. I'm taking on the bureaucracy and the bureaucratic administrative state of the federal government. And so, look, I am the first millennial candidate ever to run for U.S. president as a Republican. But I think we can actually do a better job in the conservative movement of bringing young, even Gen Z voters along with us. I actually travel college campuses across this country. And Trish, what I see is that people are, especially young people, they're hungry for a cause. They're hungry for purpose. At a time when faith and patriotism and family have disappeared, the left does a good job of filling that vacuum with race, gender, sexuality, climate. Say what you will, they're filling that void of purpose. And what I see an opportunity to do in the conservative movement is to actually fill that void with the vision of what it means to be American. That's what I'm bringing to the table. I'm having a lot of fun so far, to be honest with you. And I think that I don't think of myself as a politician, but I do want to lead a national revival like Ronald Reagan did it in 1980. I think we can do it this time around.
Listen, you're young, so you got a lot of time ahead of you. This is your first entry into politics. Donald Trump's way out in front. What's your thought on Donald Trump?
So look, I'm about in the polls and in the race where Donald Trump was in June of 2015 when he came down the escalator. That's about exactly where we are right now. I'm the outsider in this race now, and I think anything before that first debate is basically irrelevant. I think it's shameful that the Democratic Party has said that they won't host debates because they don't want their puppet, Joe Biden, to be challenged. I think that the Republican Party can embrace the mantle of being the party of free speech and open debate. And I don't think my opponents are going to relish being on that debate stage with me. But I think that's going to be good for our party because we focus too much on the who.
Donald Trump says he's not going to debate, though.
Well, I think
he said he's not going to debate, so you're going to go up against the others.
Well, you know what? I'm not sure we're going to let Donald Trump get away with that. And I say this as a friend, right? He's the guy who actually came in 2015 and shook it up on the debate stage. So I think if he's afraid of being on the debate stage with me, and I don't think he's afraid of anybody else. I think that, look, let's air it. It's going to be good for our country if we actually have an open debate around those ideas. So I predict, you know what? I think he'll man up and he'll be on that debate stage. And I think it's going to be me and him.
Would you ever consider a VP spot with him on the ticket?
Look, I would have an impact in other ways. Right? I'm a business guy in the private sector. I haven't reported to anybody for a long time. And it's not an ego thing. It's just how can we have our greatest possible impact? And I will be helpful to whoever is the next president with the right values in whatever way I can. And if I'm elected, I'm going to expect the same thing from Donald Trump. I think he can be a great source of advice, even mentorship on how to take on the administrative state. I think he went about as far as he could. I'm taking that agenda to the next level, but I will take his help at every step of the way, and I expect to do the same in return. If somebody else is the actual successful elected president, if that's Trump, I'll help him in due course as well.
Hey, Vivek, Tucker Carlson's out. I know you went on his show a few times, and everybody's just sort of reeling from that. Everybody's kind of in shock, saying maybe Fox News is the new Bud Light. What's your reaction to Tucker's ousting? Good, bad for conservatives?
Tucker's become a great friend.
Indifferent?
I mean, Tucker's become a great friend in the last few years. And one of the things I respect about him is he's an independent thinker. Mm-hmm. He doesn't shill for anybody, not for any political party, not for the GOP, least of it. Mm-hmm. I think we need more independent voices like that. So I think that that leaves big shoes to fill in the conservative movement. I think he may fill his own shoes. I'm sure he'll continue to have an impact in some positive way. In many ways, what I'm trying to do to the field of Republican politics and presidential politics, I think it's a big part of what Tucker has done in the vacuum of conservative thought leadership. And I think it's going to take everybody doing our part to revive the country. But I think one of the things I admire most about Tucker is that he's actually an independent thinker rather than just reciting platitudes. And I think it's part of why he and I get along.
Well, listen, I've always said we need a whole lot more of that. America is not really left or right. America's common sense, right? And so that's where you need that middle lane where you're taking the best of everything and pulling it together. Just one other aside, because one of the things we're doing on the show today, just for fun, is we're sort of picking, okay, who could fill Tucker's spot? And I brought up you. Would you ever consider that?
That's come up a few, folks have brought that up. So listen, running a presidential race, that's something that you actually take very seriously as a family before you make that commitment. And I think that if you asked me a year ago, there was no way I was thinking that I was going to run for president. My wife and I made a serious decision as a family, thinking about how we're going to have the maximal impact on the country. That's not a decision that we made lightly. We put an 8-figure sum of our own family's earnings and wealth into this campaign. And I think we're aiming to go the distance and take this all the way to the White House. For me, I think that's the way I'm going to have maximal impact like Reagan did in 1980. But I think that Tucker leaves big shoes to fill, and hopefully somebody worthy can actually step into them. Because I think we have a thought leadership vacuum even in media as well. And so, I think that there's going to be room for everybody to have impact in their way. And this is the way I've chosen.
Listen, it's so good to see you, Vivek. I didn't even get to the ESG stuff, but I encourage people to go and read your book, Woke Inc., because, gosh, you were spot on. I've had that conversation with you. You were ahead of the curve. It's nuts what's going on. And I think that because of all that, it's actually created a whole host of other problems. So thank you for your clarity. Keep working hard. We love to see young people excited about politics. Vivek Ramaswamy, very good to see you, sir.
Trish, last thing on Woke Inc., since you mentioned it, the sequel is literally out this week. It is Capitalist Punishment, and it's all about the ESG movement. So that actually came out this week. And so if you like that, hopefully you check out that book. Thank you.
More news to tell you about coming out of Florida. Disney is suing Ron DeSantis. We're going to get to that in just a second. But before we do, quick word from one of our sponsors, Rough Greens. This is my dog, Fluffy. You know I love my dog, Fluffy. Fluffy happens to love something called Rough Greens, which makes me very happy because this is what I feed him. It's a supplement that goes right on top of his food every night. It gives him all the digestive enzymes, the vitamins, the proteins, all the things that he needs to live a long and healthy, happy life. So I give this to Fluffy. He's thriving. He's doing great. You can get your free Jumpstart trial if you're interested. If you have a little furry friend, just go to roughgreens.com/Trish. Again, it's roughgreens.com/Trish. This whole thing in Florida, I mean, it just keeps getting more interesting and more interesting. Now, Disney is suing Ron DeSantis because, Ron DeSantis took away their sort of special privileges there in Reedy Creek. Reedy Creek is the nice Disney area. I got to say, I was just down there actually recently. I actually took a Disney cruise. Don't tell anyone. This is when you know you love your kids. They want to go on this thing so badly. And somehow I succumbed. So we went on the Disney cruise. And before we were there, we were in Orlando. And I've been to Orlando many, many, many times. But I'm always struck by how clean it is. As soon as you get onto Disney property, there's very nice signs. Everything's super well manicured. You can tell you are really in Disney World. Well, that's because they control it. And they sort of have their own little kingdom. Ron DeSantis is no, that's not happening. We don't like Disney because Disney is spending all this money in sort of a woke agenda way for liberal politicians. And so, he's like, okay, well, it takes two to tango. We can play that game. And so he took away their Reedy Creek special tax status, special governing status, all this stuff that was just specifically for those 40 square miles. Well, they've now turned around. So this lawsuit was just filed in federal court. And basically, they're trying to say, you can't strip away these special powers we have. That's not okay. And in the filing, they are accusing Ron DeSantis in Florida of, quote, a targeted campaign of government retaliation in the battle sparked by Disney criticizing the so-called Don't Say Gay bill. Remember that bill? It was just that, hey, we really shouldn't be talking about some of the things that we're talking about, right? There's kind of highly sexualized content with little kids because it's kind of too early, right? It is kind of too early. It's kind of introduces stuff at way too young an age. But anyway, the Disney people are saying, look, this is way too much of an overreach of power. They might have some ground here. I hate to tell you guys this because I know that, you don't like Disney and I don't like Disney either. But it's true that he may be kind of overstepping his bounds. It's true that this feels a little anti-business and kind of almost dictatorial in a way. And it's true that a lot of conservatives, including those at the editorial board of the Wall Street Journal, or at least Kimberly Strassel, who's over there, have written pieces criticizing him for this. You've seen a number of notable conservatives. I mean, maybe not your favorites like Mike Pence, but plenty are coming out saying, look, this is kind of a step too far. And it's interesting that they're saying this about Ron DeSantis. Donald Trump, by the way, as well, saying that this is going too far. It's interesting to see sort of the elite conservatives aligning with Donald Trump right now against DeSantis in this issue. But I think it's a purity of thought here, which is just that the government cannot retaliate because they don't like maybe what the company's doing in terms of some of its political spending that would be, say, against Ron DeSantis. So this is a saga that just keeps going on and on and on. And I got to tell you, might actually hurt Ron DeSantis's chances in 2024. We've been looking at all the poll data that's coming out. Trump way out in front. Clearly, if this holds, he is going to be the nominee in 2024. But there's still a lot of sort of expectation and hope around this guy, Ron DeSantis. Whether or not it starts to fizzle, we'll see. I mean, I think it already is fizzling in some ways. And the Disney thing is making some people kind of nervous. Anyway, we got a whole lot more coming up this week. I'm going to be joined tomorrow by some folks from The Blaze, including the co-host of Glenn Beck's show. He's got an offer for Tucker. I think there's going to be a lot of offers for Tucker. Again, as I've said from the beginning, he's going to be fine. He can do whatever he wants at this point, including starting his own thing, because there's a way to communicate directly with viewers. Which is a quick reminder, make sure you subscribe, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you share this, give me your comments. I love reading them. I do actually read them all, and I'll see you tomorrow.